Good morning, traders. It is Friday, the end of another week. Ever so slightly late start this morning. Had some computer issues, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm Jonathan Van Kloot with Stock Navigators. Quick reminder, as always, make sure you press that thumbs up button, give us a like on the video, and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you find this information useful or interesting or even just entertaining. I'll take it. And that way we can keep you posted on other great things we've got coming up in the very near future. And if you've got any feedback for me, any comments on anything, any symbols that you'd like me to take a look at, any questions about our techniques, anything like that, let me know and throw it in the comments right below. And I will do my best to answer your questions and get you what information I can. With that, let's start by taking a look at the S&P 500. That is where we always start things off. And right now, the trend is just continuing up. This is what we've been talking about anyway. We've got a very clear uptrend there. It's kind of a sloppy line, but you get the picture. The 13 EMA is absolutely clearly pointing up. The 50 is gradually hooking around and starting to head up, back up again, I should say. It was clearly already up back here. And then it took a little bit of a breather, went sideways for this nice little retracement, ABC. And now we are heading higher, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 to the upside. So there is room to run here. Oscillator is still increasing in strength. This trend at the moment is not showing any major signs of running out of steam. That being said, I'm talking about the larger time frame on the daily. On the 60-minute chart, there is a little bit of weakening in the oscillator, but nothing particularly scary. Right now, to me, it looks like on the 60-minute, we are dealing with a wave 1 up, wave 2 down. We've got a nice ABC, and now we are in wave 3 up. And so we can expect further upside from there. So there's no question about it. Trade with the bulls, trade with the trend. Right now, everything is pointing up. We don't trade what we think, we trade what we see. That's what it's all about. That is the secret, or at least one of the biggest secrets to trading successfully, is not imposing your beliefs on the market, because whatever we think is going to happen, whatever we believe is going to happen, doesn't mean anything. What matters is what is happening. So make sure the price action tells you the story. All right, looking at the Russell 2000, small caps, pretty much the same situation, although it has not, at the moment anyway, followed direct suit with the S&P 500. We are kind of sideways, just sort of chopping around in this channel, sideways to slightly down. But as you can see here, it's just been bouncing around mostly sideways. So this is a fairly standard, common thing we see, a consolidation before continuing higher. For those of you who understand these things, you could even make the case that we have a pennant here or a flag type pattern. So would not be at all surprised to see continuation to the upside from here. We already have a nice bullish candle happening today, but we've got a little ways to go to confirm further upside ahead. But it does look like the trend is still intact. We've got that nice trend line right about there. And certainly we are holding above that. 13 EMA is above the 50 SMA. The 50 SMA is still trending slightly down, not majorly. It's almost sideways, but it is still a little bit weak. So, be cautious, of course. Wait for confirmation. Make sure that you are confident that prices are, in fact, heading higher before jumping onto this trend. Right this moment, we've got oscillator pretty flat. Not a lot of momentum right now in this market this morning. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Give the market half hour to an hour or so to settle down, figure out what it wants to do for the day. But certainly we also have a nice trend line right about there. So there's no question the trend is still up at this point. So we just need to watch the price action this morning, see what it wants to do, and if it confirms to the upside, holds above, say, the 50 SMA perhaps, and if everything else holds above the zero line, then we know the bulls are still in control, and we can feel pretty comfortable jumping on board and joining them. Take a look at crude, and look at that. Crude has broken higher and is now looking to continue this upwards move. This is what we've been looking for. So the trend, no question, is still up. You could draw a trend line something about like that. And that is where we're heading. 13 EMA, just crossing the 50 as well. This is nice and significant. I know I've mentioned it a few times over the last couple of weeks when the 13 EMA has been heading north, but was not above the 50 yet. That when it can get above the 50, that's going to signal something significant. Oscillator nicely increasing. Everything is looking good to the upside. That being said, there will always be pullbacks. Nothing moves in a straight line, so you need to be prepared for those pullbacks. Taking a look at our wave counts, it looks to me like we've got probably a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. So we could be running out of steam somewhere soon. Actually, wait, see, what did I say the wave count was? Let me just look at this again. 1, 2. Yeah, okay, never mind. So just be aware that we're going to have a pullback somewhere fairly soon, probably, maybe in the neighborhood of, maybe we push a little bit higher, get to somewhere up in there, or this might actually be it and we get our pullback. But a pullback is going to be in order. And then it can continue higher. So nothing ever moves in a straight line. But right now, no question, the trend is up. So that is the direction you want to be going. You want to go with the bulls. Momentum on the daily time frame is simply building. So there is no major big time frame signs of trouble. If you are an intraday trader, obviously you can trade whichever direction suits you. But I always prefer to ultimately trade in the direction of the larger trend. So just keep that in mind. I strongly recommend you stick with the trend. That is going to be a much safer outcome for you. All right, now let's take a look at gold. And gold is still just chopping around in this area here, just kind of stuck there. Not terribly surprised, though. This is a high it hasn't seen in quite some time. Last time it was here was last year. And, well, actually, I mean, it hasn't been up here since all the way back in 2016. So gold is still looking good. It is hanging on to most of these gains. Yes, we did have a little bit of a pullback, but that's pretty standard practice. And you could easily make the case that we've got a nice little triangle pattern or wedge or pennant, however you want to call it, that would suggest a continuation to the upside from there. When we got up here, oscillator was very strong, so this is great momentum to the upside. Does not appear to be any signs of real concern to the downside. Absolutely everything is still up. Now taking a look at the smaller time frame, the 60-minute chart intraday, we have got oscillator diverging a little bit. We have this high here, and this high here, and this high here. And the oscillator is also getting a little bit weaker along with the weakenings here. But that itself is not really a divergence. This here is not a divergence because price got lower, oscillator got lower. They are in agreement. What is concerning, though, potentially, is just that we are not getting over this high. In fact, each time it's only getting a little bit lower than the last time. So all in all, it's looking a little weak right this moment. But still, the bigger time frame is always going to outweigh the smaller. And on the bigger time frame, I don't see any major sign for concern. All we have is a fairly standard oscillator kind of cooling off a little bit, blowing off a little bit of steam as price kind of goes nowhere and just chops around for a little bit. That's a pretty standard thing. So still looking for upside in gold, and the 13 EMA could be a good place to put a stop just outside that if you were the type to want to get long here. But you need to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room because, again, nothing moves in a straight line. So just be prepared for it to wiggle around. Taking a look at natural gas, we are trying to head higher. Natural gas definitely appears to have put in a bottom right down here. We have a nice situation where the oscillator diverged. Oscillator did not continue to go lower, but price did go significantly lower. And then the price turned around, reversed, made our first higher low right there, and then broke the previous lower high right there. And now we're up here. So no question, the trend has turned. You could do a nice trend line like that. The 13 EMA has turned and pointing up, and it is gunning for the 50. And much like crude oil, if the 13 EMA can get above the 50 SMA, that is a significant sign. We've also got the oscillator finally heading north of the zero line with a little bit of momentum behind it. So that is an extremely good sign as well. Taking a look at the 60-minute chart, what have we got here? It looks to me Let's see. It looks to me like we've got. Well, it's a little bit unclear to me at the moment. My first instinct is to say we've got a 1, a 2, and a 3, but I don't like that because the distance here looks to be almost exactly the same as there. And I could actually measure it and find out, but 3 really should be considerably longer. Yes, the oscillator was nice and strong there, but I'm not feeling like that is really the 3. I'm thinking that is really just a continuation and that we're going to maybe hit the end of 3 somewhere up here, somewhere up above this zone here. So we'll have to just wait and see, give it a little bit of time to work out the wiggles this morning. We've already got a huge bullish candle happening here in just the last hour. If I zoom in a little bit on that, you can see it's actually 2 candles, not 1. But we've got big upside thrust coming out of this little sideways consolidation that we had overnight. So big reversal because we had this huge down candle here, and now we have just completely undone it. But we are still technically below the 0 line here on the 60-minute chart. However, look at the MACD. It's just crossed up above the 0. It's popping up, and if the oscillator follows suit, which is what I would expect, given that the daily oscillator has done the same, then we can see definite continuation to the upside. So the 13 EMA on the 60-minute time frame turning around, heading towards that 50. And much like the daily chart, if it gets up over that 50, that's going to be a nice sign of confirmation that this market definitely wants to head higher. Next major zone to challenge is going to be right about, right about there or so. So somewhere right in this area is going to be the next place I would expect price to start to run into some trouble, somewhere in there. All right, let's take a look at Bitcoin real quick. And crypto is looking to hang on to those gains once again. Whoops, what happened to this? That's interesting. Okay, it looks like this is part of that computer problem I was mentioning I was having this morning. Some of my charts just were locked up and I couldn't figure out why. Let me just real quick copy and paste this, duplicate the window, and turn it back into the 60 minutes so that we can actually see what's going on. Let's go down to the 60. All right, there we go. Now we have got Bitcoin. Much better. Oops, this is not scaled properly. What's going on here? Well, let me just move it manually. Okay, that'll do. So Bitcoin continuing to go higher. The question we have to ask ourselves now is this A, B, C? And we were done there, and now we're heading higher. Or is it A, B, and maybe wave C is still to come? It is not entirely clear at this moment. It could go either way. I personally, my personal bias, and this is just strictly bias talking. This is not a technical analysis. This is just my own personal bias. I think that we were done with this wave here. I believe this was wave 4. Yeah, this was the end of 3. So I believe we're done with wave 4 here, and that this is the beginnings of wave 5 heading up. So maybe wave 1, wave 2, and then head higher for wave 3 of wave 5. But obviously, we don't know anything. It's not about what I think. It's not about what I believe. It's not about my bias. It's about what is the price doing. Right now, we don't know exactly what it's doing. We know that it is pretty much right in the middle of this area here. So no real confirmation of anything. We've got the oscillator above the 0 line on the 60. That is bullish. Obviously, the bulls are way in control and have been this entire time on the daily chart. So I don't see any major signs for concern. Overall, the trend is absolutely still up with a bullet and heading higher. So it looks like it's going to continue that way. 13 EMA here on this correction, of course, got below the 50, and now it's gunning for the 50 to get up above it again. And oscillator, of course, is trending upwards. So it looks good to me for this move is done, and we're ready to head to the upside. So trade accordingly. Be careful, of course, if you trade crypto. It is incredibly, incredibly volatile. So you really, really have to know what you're doing, especially if you are going to try to day trade it. Longer term trading, a little bit less stress, a little bit less headache, but still the volatility is pretty outrageous. There's nothing that moves the way Bitcoin and crypto in general does. So just trade cautiously if that is your thing. All right, last peek at the S&P again, and we are just wanting to hang on to the highs, the move from overnight. You can see if I zoom in on here that overnight when the Europeans came on board was right. Whoops, my pen was right there, that candle, and they just shoved it up, but then couldn't really go any higher. Just went very sideways from there. So I'll have to see what happens this morning. Do we break down? Do we break up? Whichever direction, make sure you're ready to get on board that. And of course, you can put a trend line in, etc. So, all right, that's it for me. I'm going to go get ready for our premium trading room and talk to the folks in there for an hour with Tom and analyze things from his perspective and see what all we can expect for today. And if you are going to be trading today, I hope you have a great day in the markets. It is a Friday, so enjoy your weekend. If you can stand to be away from the markets for a day or two. I know it's sometimes a little rough, but hope you have a great weekend. I'll be back to do this again on Monday morning at 5:45 a.m. once more. So again, I'm Jonathan Van Kloot, Stock Navigators. Please do push that thumbs up button. Give us a like on the video. Help us spread the word of what we're trying to do here to help traders out and help them learn to actually trade appropriately and trade successfully. Any comments you got for me, any feedback, throw it in the box below. Thanks so much. Take care. I'll talk to you on Monday. Bye-bye.